Racist cop shoots black man's dog for being aggressive. Unaware. Owner is Delta Force commander. Marcus Hayes, a black man in his late 30s with close-cropped hair and the kind of posture that comes from years of military discipline, was standing in his own front yard, throwing a tennis ball for his 3-year-old German Shepherd, Apollo, completely unaware that the next 18 minutes would prove once again that being black in your own neighborhood means your life can change in a heartbeat. What Officer Derek Mitchell didn't know when he pulled up? The man he was about to underestimate was a Delta Force commander with 2 Bronze Stars and direct access to the Pentagon. That ignorance, that assumption based on skin color and zip code, would cost him everything. Marcus had moved into this neighborhood 6 months ago, bought the house cash. 4 bedrooms, immaculate lawn, American flag on the porch. He'd earned it. 20 years of service. Deployments to places he couldn't talk about. Operations that never made the news. The kind of sacrifice that should make you undeniably American. But as he'd learned over the past months, some people saw his skin before they saw the flag. Apollo barked. That deep, happy bark dogs make when they're playing. The German Shepherd bounded back with the ball, tail wagging, tongue out. Marcus laughed, reaching down to scratch behind his dog's ears. Apollo had been with him through his last deployment, a service dog trained to detect PTSD episodes. More than a pet, a brother, a lifeline. Marcus was wearing gym shorts and an army t-shirt, the fabric worn soft from years of wear. His dark skin gleamed with sweat in the afternoon sun. He was home. He was safe. He was happy. He wasn't supposed to be afraid. But then he heard it. The slow roll of tires. The particular engine note that makes every black person's stomach tighten. He turned. A police cruiser. Slowing down, stopping in front of his house. Not again. Not today. Marcus felt that familiar weight settle on his shoulders. The exhaustion of existing while black. The mental calculus that white people never have to do. Stay calm. Don't make sudden movements. Speak clearly. Code switch to your professional voice. Prove you belong. Again, and again, and again. Officer Mitchell stepped out of the car. White. Mid-40s, with that particular swagger that comes from never being questioned. His hand rested on his belt near his weapon. His eyes scanned Marcus with the kind of assessment that strips away humanity and sees only threat. Apollo, still excited from playing, trotted toward the fence, tail wagging. "Sir, I'm going to need you to control that animal," Mitchell called out, his voice hard. Marcus's jaw tightened. "He's behind the fence, officer. Just playing. Is there a problem? We received a call about a vicious dog in this neighborhood. Aggressive behavior." Marcus felt his blood pressure rise. He'd heard this before. 3 times in 6 months, someone had called the police on him. For checking his mail. For jogging. For existing in a neighborhood where his presence made someone uncomfortable. "That's my dog, officer. He's a trained service animal. He's not aggressive." Mitchell's hand moved closer to his weapon. "I'm going to need to see some identification. And I need you to secure that dog immediately." Here it was. The demand. The assumption that Marcus didn't belong in this house, on this street, in this life. The requirement that he prove his humanity before being granted basic respect. Marcus reached slowly for his pocket. "I'm reaching for my wallet, officer. My ID is inside." "Sure, keep your hands where I can see them." Apollo, sensing Marcus's tension, barked. Not aggressive, protective, the way dogs do when they sense their person is in danger. Mitchell's hand went to his gun, and Marcus, who'd faced down enemy combatants in 3 war zones, who'd led operations that saved American lives, who'd sworn an oath to defend this country, felt fear, real fear, in his own front yard. Have you experienced this? The assumption, the profiling, the way your own home becomes a crime scene. Just because you're black and someone's uncomfortable, comment your story below. This is a safe space. We see you. Officer, I'm going to move very slowly, Marcus said, his voice dropping into that careful, measured tone. Code switching, making himself smaller, less threatening. The performance black people do to survive. He pulled out his wallet. Military ID visible. Driver's license showing his address. This address. Mitchell barely glanced at it. This your house? Yes, sir. You got proof of that? Mortgage papers? The question hung in the air. A black man in a nice neighborhood, obviously, he must prove ownership. Obviously, he couldn't possibly afford this legitimately. Marcus felt his hands shake, not from fear, from rage. Controlled, focused rage born from a lifetime of this exact moment, replayed in different settings, with different white faces making the same racist assumptions. I have the deed inside, Marcus said quietly. Would you like me to get it? Don't move. I'm going to need to verify this. Apollo barked again, sensing the tension, pacing behind the fence, protecting his person the only way he knew how. And that's when Mitchell said the words that would change everything. That dog is displaying aggressive behavior. I'm authorized to neutralize threats. Marcus's blood ran cold. He knew what neutralize meant. He'd seen the videos, heard the stories. Black men's dogs shot in front of them. Children watching, families traumatized. And always, the justification was the same. I feared for my safety. Officer, please. He's not aggressive. He's just protective. I can call him inside. But Mitchell wasn't listening. His gun was out now, pointed at Apollo, and Marcus realized with horrifying clarity, this man had already made his decision, had seen a black man and a large dog, and constructed a narrative where he was the hero, protecting a neighborhood from a threat that existed only in his imagination. What Mitchell didn't know, he was about to make the biggest mistake of his life. Apollo, come! Marcus's voice cracked with urgency. The German shepherd turned toward him, ears up, confused by his person's distress. Don't move that dog. Keep it where I can see it. Mitchell's voice had risen to a shout now. Other neighbors were coming out. Mrs. Patterson from next door, a white woman in her 60s who had never once waved back when Marcus greeted her. The Johnsons from across the street, who'd had their real estate agent call Marcus's realtor to verify he could actually afford the house. Silent witnesses. Phone cameras out, but not to help. To watch, to record. To post on Nextdoor later with vague concerns about aggressive dogs and property values. Marcus's phone was in his pocket. He thought about reaching for it, calling his commander, getting help, but his hands were up now, palms out, in a posture he'd seen too many black men forced into. Officer, my name is Commander Marcus Hayes. I'm active duty military, stationed at Fort Benning. This is my service dog. I can show you his certification. I don't care what you say your name is. Mitchell cut him off. Right now I have a dangerous animal and a non-compliant resident. Last warning, secure that dog or I will. Non-compliant. Marcus felt the word like a slap. He'd followed every instruction, shown ID, explained calmly, used his professional voice, done everything it's right. It didn't matter, because in Mitchell's eyes, Marcus would never be a commander, a homeowner, a veteran. He was a black man, and black men don't get the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to walk slowly to my gate, Marcus said, his voice shaking now. I'm going to call my dog inside, okay? Stay where you are, Apollo barked again, louder now. He could feel Marcus's fear, could sense the threat. His training kicked in, protect the person, assess the danger, prepare to defend. To Mitchell, it looked like aggression. To Marcus, it looked like his best friend about to die for the crime of loving him. How many of you just felt your blood pressure rise? That's recognition, isn't it? You've seen this before. You've lived this before. Drop a comment if you know this fear. Marcus made a decision. He stepped toward the gate anyway. Sir, I said don't move. He's my dog. I'm securing him like you asked. The gunshot cracked through the suburban afternoon like thunder. Time fractured, slowed. Marcus watched, helpless, horrified, as Apollo yelped. The German shepherd stumbled, confused, looking at Marcus with those brown eyes that held complete trust. Then collapsed. Apollo! Marcus's voice tore out of him, raw and primal. He lunged toward the gate. Stay back, or you're next. Mitchell's gun was still out, now pointed at Marcus. The world tilted. Marcus fell to his knees at the fence, reaching through the slats toward Apollo. The dog's breathing was labored, blood spreading across the grass. Still alive, still looking at Marcus, still trusting him to make it okay. You shot my dog. Marcus's voice was hollow, empty. He was behind a fence. He wasn't a threat. Animal was displaying aggressive behavior. I neutralized the threat per department protocol. Department protocol. Clean words for murder. Official language to justify killing a black man's companion. Terrorizing a veteran in his own yard. Asserting dominance in the most brutal way possible. Patterson clutched her pearls, literally clutched them, and backed into her house. The Johnsons kept recording. No one called for help. No one challenged Mitchell. Complicity. Silent, white complicity. Marcus's hands shook as he fumbled for his phone. Apollo was dying. He needed help, needed a vet, needed someone to save his dog, his brother, his lifeline. Drop the phone, Mitchell commanded. I'm calling for help. You shot my dog. Drop it or I will interpret it as a weapon. Here's what Marcus was thinking. What every black person thinks in these moments. Do I save my dog and risk getting shot? Do I comply and watch him die? What would my mother say? What would the talk, the one we all get about police, what would it tell me to do now? He'd survived firefights in Kandahar, ambushes in Mosul, situations that would make Mitchell piss himself in fear. But this? A suburban street in Georgia, unarmed, following orders, and still under threat of death. This was America. I'm putting the phone down, Marcus said slowly. I'm putting it down. Please, please, just let me help my dog. Have you ever been so calm outside while screaming inside? That's survival. That's what we do, every day. He placed the phone on the ground, raised his hands again, watched Apollo's breathing grow more shallow, and through his grief, through his rage, through his fear, a thought crystallized. You have no idea who you just did this to. Loop 3. The backup. Another cruiser pulled up, then another. Mitchell had called for backup. Because of course he had. A black man, showing emotion, demanding justice. That required overwhelming force. 4 officers now, all white, all with hands near weapons, all looking at Marcus like he was the threat. Not the man who'd just shot a service dog behind a fence. Not the man who'd racially profiled a veteran in his own yard. Marcus. This the complainant? One of the new officers asked Mitchell. Aggressive dog, uncooperative resident, animal neutralized. Uncooperative. That word again. The code word that justifies everything that comes next. Sir, I'm Officer Ramirez. I need you to remain calm. My dog is dying. I need to get him to a vet, please. Oh, Marcus hated the pleading in his voice, hated that he had to beg for basic humanity, but Apollo was dying, and pride meant nothing. We need to secure the scene first. File a report. He shot my dog for barking behind a fence. Sir, calm down. I am calm. Marcus's voice finally broke, 20 years of discipline shattered. I am calm. I followed every order. I showed ID. I explained, eh? And he shot my dog anyway. What do you want from me? What do I have to do to be treated like a human being in my own yard? The question hung in the air. No one answered, because there was no answer. No amount of compliance, respectability, service, or excellence would ever be enough. Marcus could be perfect, was perfect, and still ended up on his knees, watching his dog bleed out. That's the lesson. That's what they wanted him to know. You don't belong. You never will. But here's what they didn't know. Marcus reached into his pocket slowly, pulled out not just any military ID. A badge, Special Operations Command. Clearance levels they couldn't imagine. Direct lines to generals, senators, people who actually cared about optics and accountability. I'm Commander Marcus Hayes, Delta Force, assigned to JSOC. That's Joint Special Operations Command. What you just did? Shot a service dog belonging to an active combat operator? That's going to be a problem. Drop, if you felt that power shift. When they realize, when they know they messed up. We live for these moments. Mitchell's face went pale. Not because he cared about Marcus, but because he cared about consequences. I didn't, oh, I know. You didn't ask. Marcus's voice was cold now, controlled. The commander voice he used in operations. You saw a black man and made assumptions. Now my dog is dying because of your racism. Sir, I can explain. Explain to my commanding officer. Explain to JAG. Explain to the media when they find out you shot a decorated veteran's service dog. Marcus pulled out his phone again, daring anyone to stop him. I'm calling Fort Benning now. And a lawyer. And every news station in Georgia. And you're going to stand there and watch. Apollo whimpered. The sound cut through everything. The posturing. The fear. The rage. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. Can I please help my dog now, or are you going to shoot me, too? Ramirez, to his credit, looked uncomfortable. Let him through. Get the dog to a vet. Marcus didn't wait for Mitchell to agree. He vaulted the fence, a movement so fluid and practiced that all 4 officers flinched. Their hands went to weapons. But Marcus wasn't a threat, had never been a threat. He was a soldier trained to protect, kneeling in his own blood-soaked grass, gathering his dying dog into his arms. Apollo's eyes found his, that trust, still there, still absolute. I got you, boy. I got you. Stay with me. Marcus's voice cracked. Tears fell freely now. He didn't care who saw. Didn't care about being strong or respectable or any of the things black men are told they have to be. His brother was dying. He stood, all 6 feet 3 inches of him, carrying 70 pounds of German Shepherd like he weighed nothing. Years of combat conditioning. Years of carrying wounded soldiers. Now carrying his dog. Move, he said to the officers blocking his driveway. They moved. Marcus walked past them, past the gawking neighbors, past Mrs. Patterson, who was now crying. White women's tears, offered too late, past everything. Got to his truck, a black Ford F-350 with a Purple Heart license plate and a Fort Benning parking sticker. Evidence they'd ignored, evidence that didn't matter when weighed against his blackness. He laid Apollo gently in the back seat. The dog's breathing was shallow, fading. Commander Hayes, we need to take a statement. Ramirez started. You need to get the fuck away from me, oh. Marcus's voice was pure steel. Before I forget, I'm an officer, and remember, I'm just a black man who watched you shoot my dog. Your choice. He got in the truck, slammed the door. Tires squealed as he pulled out. In his rearview mirror, 4 officers stood in the street. Mitchell was on his radio, probably calling his union rep, probably already constructing the narrative. Aggressive dog, officer safety, justified shooting. The narrative that would have worked. That has worked thousands of times before. Except this time, he picked the wrong black man. Can you see your father, brother, our son in this? That moment when you realize the badge, the service, the excellence, none of it protects you from racism. Comment below. Loop the fight. The emergency vet clinic. Marcus burst through the doors carrying Apollo, blood soaking his army t-shirt. Help! My dog was shot! Please! 2 vet techs rushed over. Professional, efficient. They took Apollo, disappeared into surgery. Left Marcus standing in the waiting room, shaking. A young black woman at the desk looked at him with knowing eyes. What happened? Police shot him. In my yard, behind a fence. The words felt unreal, impossible, but true. Lord, she shook her head. Not surprised. Sad, but not surprised. I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Was he okay? Marcus looked down at his hands. Apollo's blood, his dog's blood, spilled because some cop decided a black man in a nice neighborhood was worth less than white comfort. No, he said honestly. No, I'm not. She handed him paperwork. He filled it out with shaking hands. Commander Marcus Hayes. Active duty, 20 years service. 2 Bronze Stars, 1 Silver Star. Deployments to Iraq, 3 times. Afghanistan, twice. Syria, once. Classified. Service record that would make any American proud. Didn't stop the bullet. His phone buzzed. Text from his commanding officer, General Patterson. Heard what happened. On my way, lawyer en route. We take care of our own. Another text from his mentor, a retired black colonel. Brother, I'm sorry. I'm so damn sorry. This is exactly why I warned you about that neighborhood. Marcus closed his eyes. He'd thought he could escape it. Thought that enough excellence, enough service, enough proof of worth would shield him. That's the lie they sell us. The bootstrap myth. The notion that racism ends when you achieve enough. But racism doesn't care about your medals, doesn't care about your rank, doesn't care that you've bled for this country. It only sees your skin. The TV in the waiting room was on. Local news. Already reporting, officer-involved shooting in suburban neighborhood. No human casualties. No human casualties. As if Apollo wasn't a casualty. As if Marcus's trauma didn't count. A white woman in the waiting room with her poodle glanced at Marcus. Clutched her purse. Moved seats. Even here. Even now. He was a threat. Marcus pulled out his phone. Started making calls. Not to beg. Not to plead. To mobilize. Because he had resources Mitchell didn't anticipate. First call, his JAG lawyer. I need you now. Officer shot my service dog. I want federal charges, civil rights violation, excessive force, everything. Second call, his congressman's direct line. Yes, he had it. That's what 20 years of service and elite clearance gets you. Of course, sir, it's Commander Hayes. We need to talk about police accountability. Third call, the Southern Poverty Law Center. I want to file a complaint, and I want to be public about it. Fourth call, his little sister, a civil rights attorney in Atlanta. Sis, it happened again, worse this time. They shot Apollo. Her intake of breath told him everything. Marcus, no. Is he in surgery? I don't know. His voice broke. I don't know if he'll make it. I'm coming. Don't talk to anyone without a lawyer. Don't post anything. We're going to bury them, Marcus. Legally, publicly, completely. They picked the wrong one. Hit Like if these stories need to be told, racism thrives in silence. We're bringing it into the light. Lupo, the reckoning begins. An hour later, the vet emerged. Marcus stood, heart pounding. He's stable. Bullet missed major organs, but there's damage. Surgery was successful, but recovery will be long. He's a fighter. Marcus collapsed back into his chair, relief flooding through him. Apollo would live. His brother would live. Can I see him? Soon. He's in recovery. But Commander Hayes? The vet, a white man in his 50s, looked uncomfortable. I heard what happened. That cop had no right. I've been a vet for 30 years. That dog wasn't aggressive. And even if he was behind a fence. On your property. This was wrong. A white ally, rare, hush, but real. Marcus nodded, throat too tight to speak. The waiting room door opened. General Patterson walked in. A white man in his 60s with stars on his uniform and fury in his eyes. Behind him, 2 lawyers and a victim advocate. Marcus! The general's voice was tight. What the hell happened? Marcus told him every detail, the profile, the demands, the shooting, Apollo's eyes, the blood. Patterson's jaw clenched. That officer is done. I don't care what union protects him. I don't care what qualified immunity says. You're one of my best operators. Apollo is a registered military service animal. This is a federal case now. General, with respect, this isn't just about me. This happens every day. To black people who don't have stars and lawyers, people whose dogs die and nothing happens. I want accountability, yes, but I want systematic change. Patterson nodded slowly. Then we'll get both. I'll make calls, starting with the Attorney General. The lawyers started their work, documenting, recording statements, filing complaints with Internal Affairs, the State Police, the DOJ, the FBI Civil Rights Division, building a case that couldn't be ignored, dismissed, or buried. Marcus's phone exploded. Word was spreading. Delta operators calling to check in. Fellow black service members sharing their own stories of being profiled in uniform, off base, in their own neighborhoods. A pattern. A clear, documented, undeniable pattern of racism. One text stood out from his former squad mate Rodriguez. Brother, I'm sorry. You warned us this was different for you. I didn't fully get it until now. I'm here. Whatever you need. That's the thing about racism. White people can choose to see it or not. Black people don't get that choice. We live it. Marcus's sister arrived, briefcase in hand, fire in her eyes. Keisha Hayes, as civil rights attorney, Howard University law grad, certified badass. They have no idea what's coming, she said, hugging him hard. How's Apollo? Alive, stable. Good, because we're about to make Mitchell wish he never pulled onto your street. I've already contacted 3 news networks. CNN wants an interview. So does MSNBC. Local stations are blowing up my phone. This is going national, Marcus. I don't want to be a story. I just want justice. You're going to get both. Because your story, it's every black person's story. And it's time people who don't live it understand what we deal with every single day. Would you have kept your composure? We all know what happens when we don't. When we show anger, it's aggression. When we show pain, it's resistance. Comment below. What would you have done? Outside the clinic, news vans were pulling up. Someone had leaked the story. Decorated Delta Force commander's dog shot by police in racial profiling incident. The reckoning had begun. But 3. Reveal and resolution. There's reveal. Within 24 hours, the story exploded. Not just local news. National. International. Because this wasn't just about a dog. It was about what that dog represented. A veteran who'd given everything for his country, terrorized in his own yard. A service animal, trained to help a combat operator with PTSD, shot for barking behind a fence. A black man, no matter his rank or service, reduced to a threat. The videos surfaced it. Mrs. Patterson, guilt-ridden, had been recording from her window. The Johnsons had captured everything on their doorbell camera. 8 minutes of footage showing Apollo playing peacefully, Mitchell approaching with aggression, Marcus complying with every order, and the shooting. No reasonable person could watch it and claim Apollo was a threat. But that didn't stop them from trying. Mitchell's statement to Internal Affairs painted a picture of a large, aggressive animal and an uncooperative resident who refused commands. Textbook justification, the same language used in thousands of similar incidents. Except this time, Marcus had resources and receipts. His lawyers held a press conference. Keisha stood at the podium, Marcus beside her in his dress uniform, medals gleaming, face composed. Behind them, a photo of Apollo, healthy, happy, wearing his service dog vest. My brother, Commander Marcus Hayes, served this country for 20 years, Keisha began. He's led special operations missions you'll never hear about, saved American lives you'll never know about. He's everything we say we want our service members to be, dedicated, skilled, heroic. She paused, letting that sink in. And on Tuesday afternoon, in his own front yard, a police officer saw none of that. He saw a black man, and in his mind, that was threat enough to justify shooting a service dog behind a fence. The room erupted with questions. Keisha raised her hand. Officer Derek Mitchell had 14 complaints of racial profiling in his file. 14. None resulted in discipline. He'd used excessive force 3 times. No consequences. He'd been sued twice for civil rights violations. The city settled. He kept his badge. She let that hang. This isn't about one bad cop. It's about a system that protects bad cops. A system that values white comfort over black lives. Even black lives that have sacrificed everything for this country. We're filing federal charges. We're suing the city, the department, and Officer Mitchell personally. And we're demanding systematic reform. Marcus stepped to the microphone. Cameras flashed. I don't want revenge, he said quietly. I want accountability. I want the next black veteran who moves into a nice neighborhood to be welcomed, not profiled. I want black children to play in their yards without their parents fearing for their safety. I want service dogs to be safe from trigger-happy officers who see threats instead of tails wagging. His voice grew stronger. My name is Commander Marcus Hayes. I'm a Delta Force operator. I have 2 Bronze Stars, 1 Silver Star, and a Purple Heart. I've deployed to war zones 6 times. I've led men in combat. I've bled for this country. He looked directly into the cameras, and none of that protected me from racism. None of that made me safe in my own yard. If it can happen to me, with all my privilege, my rank, my resources, imagine what happens to black Americans without those advantages. Every single day. Have you ever seen a racist face consequences in real time? How did it feel? This is what accountability looks like. Comment below. The press conference went viral. Within hours, For Justice for Apollo was trending. Commander Hayes, Our Black Veterans Matter, Officer Mitchell's photo circulated. His history of complaints, now public. His pattern of racism, undeniable. His department's complicity, exposed. The city's first response was predictable. We're conducting an internal investigation. Officer Mitchell has been placed on paid administrative leave pending the outcome. Paid leave, a vacation for shooting a dog. But General Patterson made good on his promise. He called the Attorney General, who called the FBI, who opened a civil rights investigation. The Department of Defense issued a statement. Service animals supporting our military members are afforded federal protections. We take incidents involving military service dogs extremely seriously. We're cooperating fully with federal investigators. The pressure mounted. If you're feeling that satisfaction, that finally, consequences, hit that like button. Share this. Let the world see racism has a price tag. Immediate consequences. 48 hours after the shooting, Officer Derek Mitchell was suspended without pay. Not standard procedure, not the union-protected norm, but the public outcry was deafening. Within a week, Heatyard was fired. The police chief, facing calls for his own resignation for protecting Mitchell for years, held a press conference. After reviewing all evidence, Officer Mitchell's actions were not consistent with department policy or training. His employment has been terminated effective immediately. Not enough, not nearly enough. The FBI announced federal charges, deprivation of rights under color of law, animal cruelty under federal statutes protecting service animals, and making false statements in an official report. The state prosecutor added charges, animal cruelty under state law, filing a false police report, and official misconduct. Mitchell faced 20 years in federal prison. His mugshot, that same entitled face, now fearful, circulated online. That Mitchell is racist trended for days. His wife filed for divorce. Released a statement. I did not know the extent of my husband's actions or beliefs. I cannot support this behavior. His children, college students, faced backlash. One dropped out. The other issued a public apology. What my father did was wrong. I'm ashamed. I'm learning. I'm trying to be better. Good. The next generation recognizing the sins of their parents. Breaking cycles. Mitchell's lawyer tried the expected defense. Officer Mitchell feared for his safety. The dog was aggressive. His client followed training and protocol. Marcus's legal team demolished it in filings that cited expert testimony. 3 canine trainers confirmed Apollo displayed zero aggressive behavior. A veterinary behaviorist analyzed the video. Tail wagging, play posture, no threat indicators whatsoever. Protocol experts testified that no department policy justifies shooting a contained animal on private property. And the racial profiling? 14 complaints, 3 excessive force incidents, 2 lawsuits, all involving black citizens. Pattern and practice. Undeniable. The extended consequences. But Mitchell wasn't the only one facing consequences. The police chief resigned under pressure. The internal affairs officer who dismissed Mitchell's complaints fired. The union representative who defended him voted out by his own members who were tired of protecting racism. The city faced a $10 million federal lawsuit, not just for Mitchell's actions, but for years of enabling him. For a culture that protected racist officers. For policies that prioritized white comfort over black safety. They settled $8.5 million public admission of wrongdoing agreement to federal oversight. Mandatory reforms. Every complaint of racial bias independently investigated. Body cameras mandatory. Footage publicly accessible. Community Oversight Board with power to discipline, implicit bias training, real training, not the theater version, hire black officers. Black leadership, de-escalation protocols, prioritizing communication over weapons. Officers personally liable for civil rights violations. Real change, not promises. Policy with teeth. Other departments took notice. The DOJ announced, "We're reviewing departments nationwide for similar patterns." The Hayes case demonstrates that federal protections for service members and their service animals will be enforced vigorously. But the consequences went deeper. Mrs. Patterson, the neighbor who'd clutched her pearls and called the police on Marcus for looking suspicious when he checked his mail, sold her house, moved away in shame. Before she left, she knocked on Marcus's door. "I'm sorry," she said, tears in her eyes. "I was afraid of you because of your skin color. I see that now. I'm ashamed. I'm trying to learn, but I understand if you can't forgive me." Marcus looked at her. Elderly white woman, raised in a different time, but alive now. Responsible now. "I appreciate the apology," he said carefully, "but apologies without changed behavior mean nothing. What are you going to do differently?" She nodded, swallowing hard. "I'm attending anti-racism workshops. I'm reading. I'm donating to the SPLC in Apollo's name. And I'm talking to my grandchildren, making sure they don't inherit my ignorance." It wasn't enough, but it was something, more than most offer. The Johnsons, who'd recorded everything but not intervened, faced social consequences. Their doorbell footage went viral with the caption, "White witnesses recording instead of helping. This is complicity." They issued an apology. "We were shocked and didn't know what to do. We should have spoken up. We should have helped. We're sorry. We're learning. We're committed to being active allies, not passive witnesses. Do you think the punishment fit the crime? Or should there have been more? What would you have done? Let's discuss in comments, respectfully." The Neighborhood Association held mandatory meetings about racial profiling. Several families, black families who'd experienced similar harassment, came forward. The association implemented new policies. No calling police unless actual crime witnessed. No profiling. No harassment. Violations result in fines and potential removal from the community. The local news station that initially reported no human casualties issued an apology. Our initial coverage failed to capture the gravity of this incident or the trauma experienced by Commander Hayes. We're examining our reporting practices to ensure we don't minimize racist violence. Marcus's story became case study material. Law schools teaching civil rights. Police academies teaching what not to do. Journalism schools teaching how to report on racial violence with appropriate gravity. One man, one moment of accountability. Ripples spreading outward. 3 months later, Apollo had recovered. Limp in his back leg. Psychological trauma that required extensive retraining, but alive. Marcus stood at a podium. Congressional hearing on police reform, invited to testify. "When reporters ask how I feel," Marcus said to the room full of senators and representatives, "I don't feel victorious. I feel tired." He let the words settle. "I'm tired of proving I deserve to exist in spaces I've earned. Tired of the mental gymnastics, speak up and risk violence, or stay silent and accept disrespect. Tired of the talk. I'll have with my children about how to survive police encounters. Tired of being excellent and finding it's still not enough." His voice grew stronger. "But I'm not just angry at Officer Mitchell. I'm angry at the system that made him feel entitled to treat me that way. A system that dismissed 14 complaints. That protected him through 3 excessive force incidents. That paid settlements rather than fire bad cops. I'm angry this happens every day to people without my resources or platform. He paused, looking each senator in the eye. I'm angry we're still fighting for basic dignity in 2024. That I can serve this country in war zones, lead special operations, risk my life repeatedly, and still be seen as a threat in my own yard. That's not just one bad cop. That's systemic racism. But then his expression softened. I'm also hopeful because accountability? Accountability changes behavior. Systems change when there are consequences. Officer Mitchell will never wear a badge again. His department is under federal oversight. Policies are changing across the country because people saw what happened to Apollo and said, enough. Marcus held up a photo. Apollo, healthy now, tail wagging, wearing his service vest. If my experience stops this from happening to one other black person, to one other service animal, to one other veteran who served their country and deserves better, it was worth it. Every hard moment, every news interview, every time I had to relive the trauma, worth it. He set the photo down. I didn't have to be a commander to deserve dignity. I didn't have to have medals to deserve respect. I didn't have to be perfect to deserve justice. Every black person deserves that. Period. The room erupted in applause. Not polite applause, the real kind. Several senators had tears in their eyes. Legislation followed. The Apollo Act. Federal protections for service animals. Mandatory reporting of police violence against animals. Personal liability for officers who shoot contained animals without justification. The Hayes Amendment to existing civil rights law, patterns of racial profiling constitute federal civil rights violations with mandatory DOJ intervention. Real policy. Real change. Born from one man's refusal to accept racism as inevitable. These stories matter because they're real. They happen every day to black people in America. Subscribe so you never miss a story. Hit the bell. Join a community that refuses to let racism go unchecked. We're building accountability together. Today, Marcus still serves, still leads operations, still wears the uniform with pride, though now with profound awareness of its limitations. The uniform doesn't protect him from racism, but his voice can protect others. He's become an advocate. Speaks at events, testifies at trials, consults with departments trying to reform, mentors young black service members, warning them that excellence won't shield them, but community will support them. Apollo recovered fully, physically. Emotionally, he's warier now, barks when strangers approach, has trauma responses to loud noises, but he's here, he's loved, he's safe. Marcus's sister Keisha used the settlement to fund a legal defense fund for black Americans facing police violence. Free legal representation, expert witnesses, the resources Marcus had that most don't. General Patterson retired and now runs a nonprofit, Veterans Against Racial Profiling, using his privilege to advocate for black service members. Officer Derek Mitchell, convicted on federal charges. Sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Lost his pension. Lost his family. Lost his freedom. He'll be released eventually, but he'll carry that conviction forever. No department will hire him. No community will trust him. In prison, he's learning what it feels like to be judged by appearance, to be assumed dangerous, to be stripped of dignity. Maybe he'll emerge changed. Maybe not. But he'll never wear a badge again. The police department, Marcus's case exposed? Under federal consent decree for 5 years. Mandatory reforms, community oversight. Slow change, but real change. Other cities, watching, implemented reforms preemptively. Afraid of being the next headline. Fear of consequences, driving policy where morality should have. The neighborhood where Marcus lives? Different now. Black families moving in aren't harassed. A black neighbor was elected HOA president. Community events celebrate diversity. Not perfect. Racism doesn't disappear overnight, but better. Mrs. Patterson's grandchildren attended Marcus's congressional testimony, wrote him letters of apology for their grandmother's behavior. One is now studying criminal justice, focused on reform. The Johnsons became active allies. Attend city council meetings. Speak up when they see injustice. Learning that silence is complicity. Small victories, individual growth, systemic change. The work continues. Here's what I want you to remember. Racism isn't just burning crosses and slurs. It's the assumption that a black man in a nice neighborhood must not belong. It's seeing a service dog and deciding it's a threat because the owner is black. It's 14 complaints ignored. It's paid leave for shooting an animal. It's fearing for your safety as justification for terrorizing black people in their own spaces. It's exhausting. It's everywhere. It's deadly. For black people watching, I see you. I see your exhaustion. The code switching. The talk you give your children. The extra caution in your own home. The way you make yourself smaller, quieter, less threatening. The performance you do just to survive. You deserve better. You deserve to exist without justifying your existence. For everyone else, don't be Officer Mitchell. Don't be the neighbor who calls the police because a black person makes you uncomfortable. And don't be the silent witness recording but not helping. Don't enable racism through your silence. Be better, speak up, use your privilege to advocate. Understand, that black people are telling you their truth. Believe them. Support accountability. Vote for reform. Teach your children that black lives have value, that racism is unacceptable, that dignity is non-negotiable. Because underestimating black people, that's a mistake you can't afford to make. Marcus Hayes proved it. Apollo survived it. And Mitchell? He's learning it every day in federal prison. Accountability isn't revenge, it's justice. And justice? In 2024, it comes with receipts, consequences, and policy change. Next week, racist Karen calls CPS on black pediatrician over her own adopted children. Oh, you won't believe her credentials. Hit subscribe. Turn on notifications. These stories need to be told. Until then, respect costs nothing. Dignity isn't negotiable. And racism, it doesn't just hurt black people. It diminishes our entire country. Commander Marcus Hayes served with honor. He deserved better. We all do.